Our newly minted congressman from the 4th Congressional District is my special guest today for some straight talk. That's right. Pat Fallon is here, and it's going to be a good discussion, especially about what's happened lately. I'm Bunker Bob, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Well, and a happy new year to you, and I hope that it is a good one. I know it has been for some of us, and obviously this is kind of unusual times that we are living in. And, it is great to have with me today a great gentleman from the 4th Congressional District, our new Congressman Pat Fallon. Pat, thank you so much for being with me today.
Bob, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, obviously, there's a lot that's been going on, and I want to first ask if, by chance, I know that you heard about the awful decision made that was just outrageous. Obviously, when the BCS decided to put Notre Dame ahead of A&M. I know you were as angry about that as I was, for sure. I don't know if you saw the game at all, but A&M did prevail, and all I can say is I think I'd rather win the Orange Bowl than lose the Rose Bowl. Did you see either of those games by chance?
I'll tell you what, I was surprised that Notre Dame made it to the Final Four after the debacle against Clemson in that second game. I really didn't think that there was any chance that they were going to be invited. And, Alabama just steamrolled them. They did cover the spread, which I'm not saying I'm going to confirm nor deny that was a good thing for me personally, but it was nice to see that they at least outperformed expectations, although they didn't outperform my expectations for them.
Man, what I love about being an Aggie is I've got so many TSIP friends that we just love to razz each other, and it is great to have this kind of spirited discussion. Obviously, you were a member of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish Championship football team, and all kidding aside, they were great. For A&M, I do mean I'm kind of glad we got pushed out just so that we could at least come away with a win, because Alabama is tough.
They're just so good. They're powerful, and they can just seemingly get 10 yards when they need it at ease. We got excited because I think it was the middle of the second quarter before they were even in a third down situation. That's not good. And I was texting some of my former teammates, Pat Terrell, Tony Rice, and folks like that, guys like that, and I made a joke that I had exactly the same amount of playing time in this game as the Alabama punter.
As the Alabama punter. That is awesome. That is great. Well, These are the times that we live in, but I think probably part of that was because you weren't in the game. Am I right? Come on, just be right. Just agree with me on that.
Well, listen, Bob, if I had played in my prime, we definitely would not have covered the spread.
That is awesome. Well, now you are a member of the 117th Congress.
It is, yeah, 117.
Yeah, 117th Congress. So congratulations, and you were sworn in. Unfortunately, the way with all the COVID nonsense going on, you were not able to get pictures of the swearing in, but you did get a chance to have your family there. I've got images of your beautiful family there in the Rayburn room, but you call it the what is it that you call this?
Yeah, it's the Sam Rayburn room. It's named after Sam Rayburn, who represented this district for several years, and so I call it the CD4 room.
CD4 room, I love it. Now, who's pictured there? Obviously, we can tell your two sons are on your right, our left, and is that your wife to their right?
Yeah, the right as you're looking at it. So my wife's to the left, extreme left, with my boys. My parents are sitting down there. And my sister and her husband, my sister Karen and her husband Michael Quinn.
Can you just kind of tell me a little bit about that experience?
Well, of course, it's a deep honor, and it's really neat to, deepest honor of my professional life to be sworn in and to be the representative of 750,000 folks in East Texas. And it was really surreal in a lot of ways, but in the best of ways. And having my parents there, my dad's 85 years old and in some pretty fragile health, and my mom being 80, and they're just they're retired school teachers from New England, and for them to come down and to be able to see that, it was wonderful. They were the first people in their family's lineage to go to college, and it's a great story it's an American story, and that's it was heartfelt. Now, COVID robs so many people of their health and their livelihoods, and unfortunately some tragically their lives, and it robbed us of a wonderful ceremony because Nancy Pelosi to date, and I'm just, Bob, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to not just honest, I'll be straight and I'll be candid always. This is the Straight Talk Show.
Absolutely.
That if she was just an ideological nut, but she ran a really tight house and operations went well, I would say so. She doesn't, unfortunately. They didn't know what the heck they were doing. It was a cluster the entire day. We were supposed to be sworn in groups of 70. We ended up, that didn't happen at all. And they were only allowing new members, one person in the gallery. And that was, of course, going to be my wife. My parents, and then things went on for so long that my parents had to catch their flight, and unfortunately they weren't even there. But there's always a little bit of ways around things, and if you know a couple of people, even though I'd only been there about an hour or two, we were able to sneak my sons into the gallery and another friend of mine. So hush hush, the ways in which we did it will remain secret, but it was a successful operation. So my wife, a dear friend, and my two sons were able to watch. But then we ended up, it was supposed to be just the freshman members in the chamber, and then ended up being the folks that were there at the time. If they wanted to take the oath, Pelosi just decided that we'd all do it, and it was very haphazard. But at least it got done, and we could start with the rules debate the next day.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for serving. I mean that, and I'm excited about you being there. The picture that I'm showing now is you and your family outside of the Capitol, which was the place of some nonsense really that went on. Before we talk about that, there has been some, obviously the whole day on Wednesday was intended to challenge the electoral vote. Congressman, were you one of those who were to challenge the vote along with Ted Cruz?
Yeah, in fact, I did. There were 6 states in question. I submitted, I signed the petition to object to Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and all on constitutional grounds. And it's just, if in Nevada, I couldn't find any constitutional reason to do so, because even though some very strange rules were enacted that certainly favored Democrats as far as to how to conduct the election and pick the electors, the state legislature did that. And the Constitution clearly gives them the purview in Article 2, Section 1, that it's up to the state legislature to determine how they're going to select their electors. So although I didn't like what the state of Nevada's legislature did, it was constitutional in that sense. So I didn't challenge there. And I wasn't challenging simply because the president lost closely in certain states. For instance, in Arizona, an Obama-appointed U.S. District Court judge decided that the state legislature actually doesn't have the right, although expressly written in the Constitution, he does. Because they determined in Arizona, the legislature said 20 days prior to an election, there's no more voter registration. And that had been on the books for quite some time. Then this judge, because far-left groups sued, being that they didn't have enough time for 4 years to find voters and register them that would vote their way, they had to extend it to, from October 5th, this judge said, you know what? I know the legislature says it's October 5th. I'm just going to unilaterally make it October 23rd. He doesn't have the right to do that. He was overturned, but for 10 days until October the 15th, until the appellate court shot his decision down, they had registered an additional 32,000 voters. Well, President Trump lost Arizona by 10,000 votes, roughly. So It's these kind of shenanigans that we have to push back on and say, absolutely no more. I knew going into that day that we were going to fail because it takes both chambers to agree to reject legislative electors. That wasn't going to happen in the House ever. It was very unlikely for it to happen in the Senate, but the Democrats were all going to vote to accept. But we needed to have this debate, and we needed to have this spirited discussion and exchange of ideas, because to really debate the finer points of the Constitution and the Electoral College, and to make citizens aware that this was going on. This is what the Constitution says. And moving forward, stop putting your thumb on the scale in the 11th hour of a presidential election.
Yeah, and the debate started out really well. Wasn't it Steve Scalise who gave an excellent argument on the House floor?
Yeah, it was what Whip Scalise did. He was excellent.
Yes,
it was back and forth. We had facts on our side, and then the unfortunate events that you've seen plastered all over the TV screens in the last couple of days unfolded. That was completely surreal. Mm-hmm. Something I'd never see. I never thought I'd be ripping off furniture in the Texas House to use it as clubs to defend, or the Texas House, the U.S. House, to defend the chamber. And that's precisely what ended up happening.
And it also extends to this chamber, where both Democrats and Republicans showed courage, calm, and resolve. I'd like to recognize the members now who helped to hold the line. Mark Wayne Mullen, Tony Gonzalez, Jason Crow, Pat Fallon, and Troy Nels. Working with the Capitol Police, they ensured the floor of this chamber was never breached. These are the heroes among us. Thank you for this attitude.
We as conservatives, Bob and Pat and all the conservatives that we know have condemned political violence and will continue to do so. And that means all political violence. We are going to be consistent here. There were, I don't even know how many, Bob, hundreds of thousands of protesters, 100,000, 150,000 protesters.
Peaceful protesters.
Doing it the right way.
Yes, that's
Peaceful
right.
protesters. And of course, the media tripped over themselves while cities were burning last summer and saying these are mostly peaceful protests, which they were not.
That's right.
This was a peaceful protest until the Capitol itself was breached. Hundreds of people poured in. I don't know how many. We'll probably never know exactly how many folks went in there. And that's where those people stopped being protesters and they became, agitators. They became lawbreakers. And unfortunately, then a subset of them became violent. A woman lost her life. A police officer lost her life. There was destruction of property. Where in the world? I mean, what the hell? Conservatives don't act like this. I'm disgusted. We don't sit there and occupy the Senate chamber. And we didn't know. And you're putting your life at risk when you do that. You're putting innocent bystanders' lives at risk. You're putting police officers' lives at risk. Because it's as if, can you imagine if the White House was overrun?
Yeah.
Think about that. Because this is essentially the same thing. We have 3 branches of government. I would be horrified if the Supreme Court was overrun. We only have 9 justices there. Now, is that going to encourage some domestic terrorists to try to murder all of them? This is the kind of horrific path this can take. And it's a slippery slope. And that's why we refused. There were 5 of us, 1 from Oklahoma and 4 Texans that refused to leave the chamber. And we were going to defend it. And we augmented the police, the Capitol Police, by arming ourselves as best we could at the time and keeping the perimeter secure. And the House chamber, although the Senate chamber was breached, the House chamber held. But now, you know what, Bob? At the end of the day, Democrats own the government, so they can't blame Trump anymore. They can't blame the Republicans. They can't blame Mitch McConnell. They own it. It's their baby. The people of Georgia have spoken, and they narrowly won, the Democrats. So now we're going to get to see their socialist agenda unfold, and we will fight that with every fiber of our being. That's why I was sent there. And I said for months now, and I meant it figuratively, of course, that Congressional District 4 has just hired a street fighter. I didn't know that I literally was going to have to be a street fighter on Wednesday. Jeez.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're there. I really am. I like what I've seen already. You've demonstrated that you are a man of action, that you're holding to the conviction of your beliefs, and you have our support in the congressional district so long as you continue to hold the line. And I'm confident that you will, and we're going to do our best to encourage you, hold you accountable as well. But more than anything, pray for you, because I know that ultimately this is an issue of whether or not God is what His hand is going to look like, and so I just appreciate what you're doing. So thank you so much for a great start, and we're going to be rooting for you along the way. Please come back on the show anytime you want.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that. I look forward to doing so.
All right. Well, great. We appreciate you. And that, of course, is Congressman Pat Fallon, our new congressman, who's doing a great job already. I hope that you will pray for Congressman Fallon, because he needs your prayers. Our Congressional District needs your prayers. Our nation needs your prayers. The only way that we can fight and win is with the hand of God. And I as a believer, I believe that God is all powerful and that He can do all things. So with people of faith like Pat Fallon, who's willing to stand the line, we need to be backing him, and we need to support him. So I hope that you have a blessed new year, and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a blessed day.